I wanted to ask one last question. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the nominee. One of the problems this government, we faced this government in the last 1 or 2 months, Mr. Speaker, emanated from what is called opulence, arrogance, show-off, and unfortunately or fortunately, you are put in the center of it. What is your reply to that? Or what do you say about that?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by, yes, I agree with Honorable Cholet that, Mr. Speaker, we should be holding world championships. You remember we held the was it under 17 or under 20? Yes. Most of those athletes, yeah, under 20, and we were in Kasarani, and most of those athletes now are at the Olympics. Mr. Speaker, I believe that if we deliver the infrastructure we have talked about to the standard required, we should be able to hold it, to host it at the next available opportunity. And I want to thank the Honorable Cholet that should I be confirmed, she will also be willing to support, Mr. Speaker, and that is patriotism. That's an act of patriotism. And number two is that this law, I know we have a policy in Kenya, I think it was put at the time of Honorable Tuju, if I'm not wrong, that says 60% of the content should be local, but as a policy, as a directive. But I think we need to move it to law. So when we are revising because we have now a draft creative industry bill and policy, I think as we move to that direction, we should include that in the bill. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Cholet also has talked about communication and reaching out to the younger people. I want to confirm that, Mr. Speaker, I will make sure that I work with the young people, and I will, resources permitting, and it's my wish that I get somebody to work with me who is at the age of what is now called Gen Z or Gen Alpha. That group, Mr. Speaker, who are in their 20s to 30s, Mr. Speaker, I would like to have one of them work in my office, but also I'd like to make sure that the internship programs that we also have in the government, some of those who will intern within the ministry to intern in my office, so that they can also help me build my capacity among young people, so that I continue benefiting from the benefits working of these young people. By the way, I want to assure our young people that they should not fear anything about. I am very enthusiastic about sports and youth, and that, Mr. Speaker, is important to make that assurance. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Junet has asked a very pertinent question. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to say this. Mr. Speaker, I am not arrogant. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I am as gentle as a dove. For those who know me, who are my friends, they know that I cannot hurt a fly. Mr. Speaker, I have many friends in this parliament. They know me. And I have many friends who I've worked with. The problem with public service, and particularly if you have been a politician, you are always around here confronting challenges. And sometimes when you speak in a particular manner, it's concluded that that person is arrogant. Mr. Speaker, I am not. And as a Christian, I should not be containing arrogance. Number two, Mr. Speaker, on the question of opulence, Mr. Speaker, I must say this with utmost respect. I do not know even what opulence means, Mr. Speaker. And let me say this. I take it to mean that people who are opulent are the ones that bask in wealth and modern things. You will see them exposing where they are with their families, where they live, showing which car they drive and all that. Mr. Speaker, I just became a victim, unfortunately, of a crossfire of a conversation. On things, Mr. Speaker, I do not go anywhere to announce to somebody that I wear this, I do that. It's just that some pictures take something you wear and this, that, Mr. Speaker. Ultimately...
And you spoke carelessly somewhere.
Ultimately, Mr. Speaker...
In some radio show.
It wasn't careless, Mr. Speaker. Ultimately, yes. I was asked in a radio show a direct question. What is the most expensive shoe, tie, watch you have ever worn? Mr. Speaker, I had two choices. You didn't
know it was a trick?
No, it's not a trick. Even if it was a trick, I had two choices. Either to lie or to say the truth.
Or not to answer.
Mr. Speaker, no, let me just come to that.
That was the third
Mr. Speaker, I would have refused to answer, but I also had the opportunity to say the truth. And by saying that truth, Mr. Speaker, having been put that question, to me, Mr. Speaker, it was not by my own choice to go and say, and Mr. Speaker, you know, for me who has grown up as a son of a squatter in Embobut Forest, you know that even when we were growing up, if you get one shoe or one watch like the one I got when I was in primary school, that is your Sunday best. That is your Sunday best. It's that one expensive thing you have that sometimes you are happy with. But to say I'm opulent, Mr. Speaker, I must say this with utmost respect. I have never gloated anywhere about anything I wear, anything I have, Mr. Speaker. Even where I live, Mr. Speaker, I've never gone to announce to people that I have this kind of a house. Or, Mr. Speaker, I've never even bragged about the car I drive, even if all those things could be more expensive than the things that have been mentioned. And I have said this, and I say this when the president nominated me. There is a verse in the Bible that says, if your eye is going to hurt a neighbor or your hand is going to hurt a neighbor, you better gouge it out so that you don't make your neighbor to sin. And I say this when the president nominated me, that if in any way I behaved either by speech or conduct or my lifestyle, Mr. Speaker, in a manner that hurts any Kenyan, I apologize profusely. Mr. Speaker, that I said, and I mean it. I mean it as a Kipchumba, and I mean it as a Christian. That if I had, and Mr. Speaker, to demonstrate my commitment, Mr. Speaker, if any Kenyan tells me tomorrow that you can only wear butter shoes, and it will help me, Mr. Speaker, I'm being very honest, that if you wear only butter shoes, it will promote us to focus on your job and to hold you account on your job, Mr. Speaker, I'll do so. Because I do not want anything to distract the people of Kenya from the things I do. And I say this, Mr. Speaker, this is the conclusion, having managed, Mr. Speaker, a ministry that has so many agencies and a huge budget, I am extremely proud as Kipchumba Murkomen that for 2 years, I have not been mentioned on questions of incompetence. I've done my job with utmost hard work. The people I've left back in the ministry are very proud of the work we did. Number two, Mr. Speaker, that in those 2 years, I have not been accused by anybody on anything related to impropriety or corruption. Integrity is my middle name, Mr. Speaker, and I intend to keep that integrity, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the misconception that came around this. And I will remain in that narrow path, Mr. Speaker, for the benefit of our country.
Don't fear, don't live in fear. Honorable Murkomen, I'll ask you two short questions. Number one, I'll take you back to football. Because football is the most captive sport in the world. You know that. In this country, there was a time when our second president, out of probably misadvice, outlawed social football clubs. World over, if you go to Germany, if you go to UK, all those clubs are born out of social groupings. Emirates, we have my team, Arsenal. You have Manchester United, you have Man City, you have Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, all this. Can you, pardon? Our team. You also have our team, and you have Murkomen's team called Manu. If you find favor with this committee and become a CS, would you consider formulating policy to the extent that corporates don't have to run football teams, but they can sponsor football teams? I don't understand why breweries should be running a football team. Soon, perhaps Safaricom will run a football team and others. Why can't they channel those resources to social groupings that have got emotional attachment to the game that will promote football in this country? Number two, when FIFA continued unreasonably interfering in the management of football in Nigeria and Cameroon, the government deliberately tell them, go to hell, suspend us for 2-3 years, it doesn't matter, we'll organize our sports, hold elections, have accountable leadership, and we'll come back to play with you. At some point, you might just have to bite the bullet and take us in that direction, because the mess that we see in the management of football in this country is not taking us anywhere. Remember the good old days of Mohamed Abbas, Josephat Morila, JJ Masika, Onyango Jogo, all Ayoi, all those greats. And those are about 20, 30 years ago. We had better football in Kenya 30 years ago than now. You should undertake to Kenyans that you are going to correct this mess. And if it means Kenya missing out on FIFA activities for a year, so be it, so that we can put our things right. Number 4, you already alluded to this. Please change the law, manage organizations that run our sports, give them proper legislation that will say you can be elected, whoever you are, but you run 3-4 years, renewable ones, and you go. So that we don't have people living in sports in perpetuity without giving room to others. I also want to ask you about our athletes. I know you are not a minister yet, hoping you might get favor. Our athletes are treated very badly. I went to the Olympics in London in 2012. All the managers of our athletes who are going to bring us gold medals are flying first class, business class. Our athletes are flying economy, and they go there and they're put in dormitories where they're given a stipend of $50 to $100 maximum, and the managers who do nothing are sleeping in 5-star hotels. You must change this if you are confirmed, because this country can manage its marketing worldwide through our athletics. Which country in the world has its national anthem played in capitals of the world every other day, other than Kenya, because of our athletes? None. Not even the American anthem or Chinese anthem or Indian anthem is played as many times around the world as our anthem. So we hope that you'll do that. If you can respond to that, then I'll read you a few things from Kenyans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quickly, I think there must be a question why AFC and Gor Mahia have survived this long. Shabana to a good extent, yes, even Shabana. It's because it's linked to community.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I can't agree with you more. When we are revising this sports policy, we need to support community clubs.
Yes.
You wonder why one would have a problem with that. I think it was a misconception then that where there was.
Moise said he was fighting tribalism, which was not true.
Yeah, because it's one thing. There are positive things about communities that it doesn't become negative tribalism. You know, the fact that a community owns a particular club is something we should be, and we will do that. Number 2 is that, Mr. Speaker, as I have said earlier, with utmost respect, our colleagues and friends who are now managing FKF must be ready for change. Mr. Speaker, I know when I say this, they are dangling a particular threat that, oh, you know, if you interfere, we will be banned, and if we are banned, we will not do AFCON. If we are banned, the junior team will not go to Dominican Republic for the World Under 17. Mr. Speaker, we will not operate in this ministry using blackmail. And we are not saying we hate the people who are in that office. They have done their bit. We can as well deploy them to do something else. But let's open the door for other Kenyans to elect sports leaders of sports federation. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, that sports like tennis, like basketball, like cricket, like badminton can really employ so many people? Do you know what? Most of those federations are in people's briefcases. You know, they are walking around with it. You know, there is somebody in this country who is in the badminton federation who travels to Malaysia, where the headquarters is, and he is getting some small allowances and filing returns. And nobody knows. As I have said, transparency must be achieved. You must publish your accounts. You are receiving this money on behalf of the people of Kenya, and we must make sure that FKF AK, and other federations are going to be run transparently. Mr. Speaker, let me just, for avoidance of doubt, I will not be able to do this job alone. You can see the strength of those cartels. If I get
Parliament
approved,
will support you.
yes, Parliament, we will really need Parliament if I am confirmed. Number two, Mr. Speaker, we will need the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya to create a conducive environment with our judges of dealing with disputes in sports federations, because there are many federations where the officials are surviving on a court order for more than 10 years. That is ridiculous. Yet the people of Kenya and the young people are losing opportunities because of those delayed elections. The last thing I'd like to say is, Mr. Speaker, yes, I agree with you that our athletes are treated badly. As I said earlier, my first assignment will be to put together stakeholders in every federation. I will start with football and athletics, Mr. Speaker. I want to call all the stakeholders, let them say all the issues. Their cabinet secretary would listen, their ministry will listen, and then from there, we agree on a protocol on how to treat our athletes when they are in international assignments, with clarity of where they will live and so forth. But also we will need also parliamentary support to make sure that the resources can support also where they are going to stay.
Good. One Kenyan asks, I think why are students made to leave school or be absent from school to participate in school games, but are never rewarded like school fees rebates? Another one asks, will you complete Masinde Muliro Stadium in Bungoma? Another one asks, will you complete Kericho Airstrip? That you already answered, even Masinde you talked about. Another one asks, why didn't you open Dongokundu Bridge? I think Mishi has talked to that. Another one says, through sports talents, you can integrate refugees with the host community. Why haven't you done, do you promise to do this for the refugees of Kakuma in Turkana? Then there was another one.
The National Youth Service.
The National Youth Council, why hasn't it held elections for 12, how many years they say? 12. 12 years. You had already talked to that. And somebody says, and this is not your responsibility, that NYS should be in your ministry.
Sure.
That is up to the appointing authority and the designating authority, who is His Excellency the President.
Chairman.
Yes.
Chairman, it's not a question.
Yes.
It's a comment, just a comment, a brief one from Kenyans. They've asked that I tell the nominee that the young people, they are buying computers, mobiles, laptops, software. They're quite expensive, and they use it to make money through creative, what they record and they share out there. And we already taxed them under the Finance Act 2023. They're asking you, please do not tax them any further, or don't propose any further taxes. And lastly, know about mental health challenges for our young people.
Yes, nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The rewards, school rebates, yes, St. Patrick's High School, where I went, used to have this free scholarship for all the sports athletes. And they used to even to have a scholarship also for the volleyballers when we were doing very well. Schools should be able to have that kind of a scheme, because their sportsmen promote the school, and they can be given scholarships with the board of management working together with the administration to make sure that they support the schools. What we can promise is that we should be able to push a policy where winners in regional, national, whatever, are recognized. I don't know how CBC will work further beyond grade 9. Hopefully, even in the next stage, it's going to be able to integrate these sportsmen and women, or the girls and boys, to make sure that they are rewarded max for their performance in the field. I hope that can be done, and that's a policy decision that is in the Ministry of Education. As I said, it's a very important ministry in terms of working together with the sports department. Dongokundu Bridge will be opened soon. It's nearly complete. That is almost there. Sports integration of the refugees with local community. Mr. Speaker, a little bit of this is not in our ministry per se. That is the sports, the integration of the local community and the refugee. That is a decision that has to be made from the interior, from immigration, on the status of the refugee. But as you know, the refugees have a chance to also compete in Olympics.
Man called Losike was trying to link it to sports.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, Mr. Speaker, then I understand what he was trying to do. On the National Youth Council, I spoke to it and I said that I am going to make sure that we do the elections from the grassroots level. On the question of taxes, as has been raised, taxes is on gadgets and equipment and so forth. A GIRI program and Jitume, which is being run from the ICT ministry, had a plan around giving affordable gadgets to young people, including the hubs in the constituency. My proposal is that all these constituency-centered initiatives, community training grounds, Jitume hubs, sports academies, we should make sure that they are in one place, so that when we identify public land in one constituency, we put all these facilities in one place so that youth can benefit from all of them. On the mental health is a very serious issue, Mr. Speaker. Mental health is a very, very serious issue. In fact, mental health goes together with, we must, Mr. Speaker, put in place socio-psycho support. As I enumerated earlier, I've schooled here and abroad. In Kenya, you go to university from first year up to fourth year, you don't meet a counselor anywhere. You go through your problems. Students who lose their parents, they go bury a parent or a relative, they come back, they continue. Nobody talks to them. Nobody cares why their marks have dropped. We have a very, very rude and uncaring, crude actually, uncaring system of education. We must make sure that we put in place social cycle support in our learning institutions. On the sports part, Mr. Speaker, the federations must, and that was part of the recommendation from the Agnes Tirop, the committee that was formed after the Agnes Tirop unfortunate situation, that we must put in place social cycle support for all the athletes. We must also put in place a voluntary saving scheme through NSSF, so that when they are active, they can be able to save for support them later. Last, Mr. Speaker, there must also be we must find a way of reaching out to former athletes, boxers, footballers. We know our footballers who are suffering because of mental health. Even athletes, Mr. Speaker. Some started with alcohol and then or drugs and then ended up, Mr. Speaker, in the situation they had. Some. Yes, the group of the boxers like Congestina, the football. I don't want to mention all their names, but I know them because I come from a county that has so many athletes. Mr. Speaker, you go to Iten or neighborhood, you will find former world beaters. Mr. Speaker, people who won marathons. Somebody sleeping in a trench, Mr. Speaker, drunk because of frustrations. Perhaps the little resources they got was swept away by parasites, Mr. Speaker, that come in form of women or relatives or neighbors. Mr. Speaker, their mental health.
Women are not parasites.
Mr. Speaker, as I said even earlier, even men are parasites. I said that earlier. I said some of our girls are being preyed on by men who pretend to be husbands.
So.
Mr. Speaker,
lastly,